All right, guys, I'm going to get started. Can I get a thumbs up at home that you hear me and see the board okay? Awesome, here we go. Cameras should be on. There look like there's a lot of them off. They should be on. All right, we are still in section 5.5. We saw yesterday how if they're going to give you one of the factors to a polynomial function, you can use that factor to start breaking that polynomial down using synthetic, and then we can factor it when we get it to a degree 2. This was the third example that I started to talk about on yesterday's notes. I'm going to start with it, and then I'm going to do 2 problems off of Delta Math to show you what your actual homework will look like and the wording and stuff. All right, so guys, this was the last 2 problems from yesterday. I just put it on today's notes. So yesterday, this problem said, find the remaining roots. So guys, find the remaining answers of the polynomial function, f of x equals, so here's our polynomial, given that x equals 10 is one of its zeros or roots. Now guys, remember, this is a degree 3 polynomial, so that means it should have the same amount of roots and answers and zeros. So we already know when it says find the remaining roots, if they already gave you one of the roots, there's still 2 more. We have to find the other 2. All right, so how can we use this clue? Because yesterday we saw they gave us a factor, now they're giving you a root. Well guys, think about it. If x equals 10 is one of your roots, it's one of your answers, that means he must have been one of those little factors that you had set equal to 0 and solved. So what would he have looked like written as a factor that you would have set equal and 0 and solved? Would he look like x plus 10, or would he have been x minus 10? He would have been x minus 10. You would set it equal to 0 and solve, and that's how you would have gotten 10 as one of your roots. So guys, if they're going to give you a root, they're basically giving you a factor, and what do you know a factor will do to that polynomial? It'll divide evenly in. So now, when you set this factor equal to 0 and solve, you get x equals 10. So basically, when they give you the root, they're giving you that magic synthetic number. So all you have to do is take the 10 and use it as your magic number and start that synthetic division process. So let's do it. And again, that's basically why 10 ends up as one of your magic numbers, because he is a root. The magic synthetic number is a root. All right, so it goes from an x to the third to an x squared to a just x to a just number. We're not missing any terms. We don't got to fill in any zeros. So we got 4, negative 25, negative 154, and 40. And again, guys, if they're going to tell you it's a root, then it definitely must have been a factor, so it's got to divide evenly in. So you have to get a remainder of 0. If you don't get a remainder of 0, you definitely did something wrong. All right, everybody, multiply, add, meet me at the end. You should know how to do this by now. Okay, I definitely got my remainder of 0. So now the synthetic division, it leaves me the coefficients to a new polynomial that is 1 degree less than the original. So guys, if this is an x to the third, now we're left with a degree 2, a quadratic, our baby. We want to get to a quadratic. So that's a 4x squared, a positive 15x, a minus 4. Okay, now guys, here's the difference. Yesterday, in the questions that I asked you, the first thing I asked you was to factor the polynomial, right? And then the second part said, find the roots or the zeros. Well, guys, this one says just find the remaining roots. So we already know 10 is one of our answers. We just have 2 more. The other 2 roots are going to come from you solving this quadratic equation. So all you have to do is set this quadratic equation equal to 0 and solve for the remaining 2 roots. All right, well, guys, the first thing I would do to solve a quadratic is look for a GCF, but a 4, a 15, and a 4 don't have one. So that means I can go right to the factoring process. All right, well, here's the deal. Some problems, when we go to factor them, are definitely more difficult than others because you have more options to play with. So, guys, when I go to put a number here and a number here, I know it's got to multiply to 4x squared. But it's not as simple as, oh, it's 4x, 1x. maybe it's 2x, 2x. So you have to leave yourself options. It could have been a 4 and a, oh, not a 4 and a 4, don't listen to me. A 4 and a 1, my bad. It could have been a 4x and a 1x or a 2x and a 2x. And then when I go to put numbers in the back, whatever numbers go here have to multiply to -4. So it's the same thing. It could be 4 and 1, it could be 2 and 2. And now you're gonna have to work your rainbows to see which combination gets you those 15 x's in the middle. So guys, I trained you before to just do this. Try to test it out right now. If you did 4 times 4, you would get 16. If you did 1 times 1, you would get 1. Can a 16 and a 1 go to a 15? Holy crap, they can. A 16 and a 1, if you add or subtract, they go to a 15. So maybe we found it. Maybe it is supposed to be a 4x and a 1x, and then the 4 and the 1 have to go here and here. Let's see where they need to be. If I want to get that 16, then I got to put the 4 here. And again, I don't want to put it here because then they'd have a GCF. And we already said there is no GCF. And then I'll put the 1 there. And now I have 1x and I have 16 x's. How do I make them go to a positive 15 and still make these multiply to a negative? Well, I would need a -1 and a positive 16. They would add up to 15 x's. So I'm going to put a minus there and a plus there, and you factor it. So that was one of the harder ones to factor, but lucky for us, we found the working combination rather quickly. All right, now to solve this quadratic, all you have to do is set these two factors equal to 0 and solve. So what's it going to take to make 4x minus 1 equal 0? Let's add the 1, and let's divide by 4. So x equals 1/4 is one of our roots, zeros, or answers. And then if I set this factor equal to 0, minus the 4, x equals -4 is our second root. So the remaining two roots, or zeros, or x-intercepts are 1/4 and -4. And then the third one was the one they gave us. We already knew 10 was one of them. How's that feel? Everybody okay? So, okay, it takes you right to your quadratic. You set your quadratic equal to 0, you factor, you solve. Everybody at home okay with that? Good. All right, let's go. Let me show you what Delta Math is going to look like tonight, because they give you one a little bit even different than the two we've seen so far. So let's go to Delta Math real quick. I'll leave that up for one more second in case anybody's still writing anything down. So this, you can put these in the blank examples that I left you on your notes. This will be example 1 or 2, I guess. I guess I labeled them wrong. All right, so here we go. Look at this question on Delta Math. If f of x equals this polynomial, and f of -10 is equal to 0, then find all of the zeros of f of x algebraically. So guys, they're giving us this polynomial. Let me write it down because mine's going to disappear when I get my paper up. Okay. They want you to find all of the zeros. So basically, guys, to find his zeros, you have to set this equation equal to 0 and solve. Let me just get to my notes so we can see. All right, here we go. All right, so what we're actually doing is taking this polynomial and setting it equal to 0 and solving. That's our goal. To find his zeros, that's what you have to do. Well, guys, to solve this, we need to factor it. But like I said, the factoring that we know right now doesn't work for this. So how are we going to factor this? Well, they've given us a clue, and the clue is this. They said when you plug -10 into this polynomial, it makes a 0 come out. Well, guys, that means that when -10 goes in, a remainder of 0 comes out. This is the remainder theorem. So this is the number that makes a remainder of 0 comes out. So guys, that means if x equals -10 has a remainder of 0, it means that that would have been that magic synthetic number that we used. And we saw that that magic synthetic number was actually one of the roots. So if this is one of your roots, what would it have looked like written as a factor? It would have looked like x plus 10 or x minus 10. So guys, by them telling you that this number makes a 0 come out, it means he's a root. It means he's your magic synthetic number, which means at some point he would have been a factor. And what is a factor? Due to this polynomial, it'll divide evenly in. So then you would set your factor equal to 0, and guess what? You get -10, because -10 is your magic synthetic number. He is a root. So we're going to use him, and we're going to start breaking that polynomial down using division. So if they're going to give you a number that makes a 0 come out, they're giving you a root. They're giving you a number who gets a remainder of 0. All right, so then my coefficients. X is a third, x squared, just number, just x. I'm not missing any. Don't got to fill in any zeros. 1, 13, 32, and 20. They said it's going to make you have a remainder of 0, which means it's a factor, which means it's a root. So you better end up with a remainder of 0 or you did something wrong. All right, everybody can do this. I'll meet you at the end. Multiply and add all the way to the end. Okay, so after synthetic division, we end up with these new coefficients to a new polynomial that'll be a degree 1 less than the original. So if this is a degree 3, this is a degree 2. It's a quadratic. That's what we want. So it's a 1x squared, a plus 3x, and a plus 2. So guys, they said find all the zeros, right? This is a degree 3, so he should have 3 zeros, 3 solutions, 3 roots. -10 is one of them. We need 2 more. You're going to get the next 2 by solving this quadratic. So set this quadratic equal to 0, and let's find our other 2 answers. All right, the first thing I would do is I would look for a greatest common factor, but they don't have one. So let's start factoring. It looks like this is going to be pretty simple to factor. All right, I know whatever I put here and here has to multiply to x squared, so that can only be xx. I know whatever number I put here and whatever number I put here, it's got to multiply to 2, and my rainbows got to add up to the 3 x's in the middle. Well, guys, what are the only 2 whole numbers that multiply to 2? 1 and 2. So in any order, it doesn't matter because these are just x's. You need a 1 and a 2. What signs do I need to multiply to that 2 and have my rainbows add up to those 3 x's? Plus and plus. Now we set each factor equal to 0, and we're done. So what's going to make x plus 1 equal 0? X has to be -1. So there's my second 0, my second root, my second answer. And then what's it going to be if x plus 2 has to equal 0? X would have to be -2. All right, so on Delta Math, the question said, I believe, find all the zeros. So guys, if this is degree 3, then it should have 3 zeros. So there should be 3 numbers that you have to put in. The first one they gave us, it's -10, right? That magic number that made 0 come out, it's one of your roots. And then we found the other 2 to be -1 and -2. So those are the 3 numbers you should be putting in to Delta Math. Now remember, you technically need 3 answer boxes. Each answer has to go in its own box. So if you put -10, if you try to put a comma like you're going to list them, it automatically brings up another box. Or don't forget you have that plus sign over here that adds another box as well. All right, so now I have 3 boxes, -10, -1, and -2. And it doesn't matter what order you list them in. If somebody put -2, -10, it's all the same, as long as you have these 3 answers. Submit, and those are them, and you'll get your green check. Okay, So now I'm going to bring one up like yesterday. I'm going to have you guys do it. All right. Let me see if I can find the question that I want, and then we'll be done. All right. You guys do this one. You guys can do this one. I'll do it a little bit. I'm just going to give you guys a head start. You guys can check with me. All right, you guys try that one. It's just like the two that we did yesterday. It's going to give you a factor. You know it divides in. Start that division. Start breaking this polynomial down. All right, so again, guys at home, you're trying to do this one. If anybody's stuck, you can raise your hand. I'll come help. Same thing, guys at home. If you need help, let me know. Right? That's how you find the zeros. You guys set this equal to 0 and solve. The problem is you can't factor this. So you're going to use that clue to start breaking it down. So guys, I hope you remember, when they give you that factor, you set it equal to 0 and solve. That's one of your answers. Your magic synthetic number is a root. So that's one of the 3 answers you should be circling. Right? Do your synthetic. One synthetic division should leave you with a quadratic that you can factor and solve on your own. And that's how you'll find your remaining 2 answers. You already know one of them because they gave you a factor. That's the quadratic equation you should be left to solve. So hopefully a little quick factoring, and you should have your last 2 answers. There's no GCF, so you can start right to the factoring process. All right, now I'm looking for numbers that multiply to negative 12, and I need my rainbows to add up to that 4x. So you're only looking for numbers that multiply to 12. Those are the only numbers you should be putting in here. The only numbers that multiply to 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. And then work those rainbows to see which ones get you the positive 4x's in the middle. And remember, if you have to multiply to a negative, you're going to need opposite signs. Somebody's got to be positive, somebody's got to be negative. If you use a positive 6 and a negative 2, that'll get you 6x's, and negative 2x's get you the positive 4x's that you need in the middle, and 6 and negative 2 multiply to negative 12. So now all you have to do is set your factors equal to 0 and solve. So what does x need to be here? X needs to be negative 6. Set this factor equal to 0, and x has to be 2. So guys, those are 2 answers, but this is a degree 3. There should be 3, right? Don't forget the factor they gave you becomes one of your roots. So your 3 answers are negative 4, negative 6, and 2. Maybe I'll write it over here so you don't forget. And that's what you should be typing in to Delta Math. Where is it? All right, what do we got? Negative 6, negative 2, and negative 4. And you'll get your green check. All right, how do you guys feel, all right? So guys, on Delta Math, those are the 2 type of questions in your homework. They either tell you it's a factor, you set it equal to 0, you get your first root, you get your first answer, you use it as your magic synthetic number, get your quadratic, get your other 2. Or it gives you the whole f of negative 10 equals 0. Those are the only 2 problems that Delta Math has. So if they give you the f of negative 10 equals 0, remember, if negative 10 makes 0 come out, then he's your root. He's your magic synthetic number. He's one of your answers. Use them right in your synthetic process and start solving for the rest, okay? All right, anybody have any questions here? We're all right, okay? All right, at home, anybody have any questions right now? All right, I have to take attendance really quick, and then you do have a homework tonight. I gave you 6 questions. I know they take time, so I didn't want to overload you. It estimates about 15 minutes, okay? All right, please feel free to reach out to me if you are struggling with anything from this section. All right, let me take attendance, and then you guys will be good.